Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Mish, and today I have my guest here, Shirley Gutkowski from Primal Air. And today we're going to talk about her business and how she works with people that have chronic illness. So, Shirley, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you too.
Thank you. So, tell me, who do you work with?
I work with anybody with a face,
Okay.
to put it like short and sweet. I don't necessarily work with the littles, but how do I want to answer that? So we work with the muscles in the snoring complex. So, everybody that has problems like right here.
Yeah.
And for chronic illnesses, a lot of it starts here and then it just never gets resolved. And then when you're 30 and 40 and 50, it turns into this enormous problem that could have potentially been solved when you were 3.
Yeah.
But we don't see 3-year-olds. So because they're hard, and they have parents who are also hard. So
yeah.
So there's that. But that's where the real prevention is, right? From all of these things. So
Yeah.
we have to address these chronic problems as they are, and then recognize the potential for these chronic problems in the smaller and smaller children. So what I've been learning in my myofunctional therapy training and the experiences that we've had here for the last while is that a lot of this is coming from the cranial nerves that have been affected by improper development of the face.
Okay.
And so that's why the 3 and unders is such a big topic. And so I have been working with Dr. Shalom Samuel, who is right here in our office. I don't know, it's not an office building, but in our office.
Mm-hmm.
And then she takes care of all that neurological piece and adjusts all of these bones in the face so that the neurology can work right. And she works, with the cervical bones here to also get those out right.
Mm-hmm.
None of that's going to stick without the tongue in the right place.
Right.
As it turns out. So that's
okay. So tell me what myofunctional therapy is.
So myo is muscle.
Myo is muscle. Okay.
And therapy is bossing the muscles to go where they're supposed to go.
Okay. And
so
that all goes back to the mouth and breathing.
Correct. So it's orofacial, right? So oral,
okay. Oral,
facial,
facial.
Myo, muscle therapy. So myofunctional. So it's the function. So for instance, for your audience who's listening right now and for yourself, where is your tongue right now? Is it, I know it's in your mouth.
Well, it's in my mouth.
Is it behind your teeth? Is it in front of your teeth? Is it between your teeth?
It's behind the teeth.
Okay. How much of the tongue is up against the roof of your mouth?
How much?
Yeah. So we divide the tongue into thirds. So you have the anterior third. So we mix some Latin with regular English.
Yeah,
so we have the anterior third, we have the middle third, and then we have the posterior third.
Anterior third.
At the anterior third. So anterior is front. And so that piece is good. And that's great to have that part up there. But we want the entire thing to be up there.
Why?
We want at least 2/3 of the tongue to be against the palate. Now, if you did that right now for yourself, get it up there. Does that make you choke a little?
I can feel it here. It doesn't make me choke, but I can feel a difference in the muscle structure.
So when it's up there, it's taking the muscles out of your airway.
Oh, well, look at that.
Yeah. So I don't know if we have screen sharing abilities here, but I can show you exactly what that looks like if you want, because it's really counterintuitive, or it's hard to describe in a 3D kind of a way.
Okay. You should be able to do it. I just got
Yes.
that.
Super. Okay. So this is from Dr. Zagi's Facebook page. Oopie. Hold on. I just managed to mess this up here. So this here is the image of two images of the same person.
Okay.
This is, so I recorded this earlier and now it's got all of my little recordings on this.
That's all right.
Okay, so there you go. That's the palate. Okay. The tongue body is where that red dot is now. And that black area between the tongue and the palate is a problem. There's a neurological circuit that's open here. And that sets up your fight or flight situation.
Okay.
And so if you follow the air in through the nose, you can see how narrow it gets here. So this back part of the tongue, so this front part is what you just showed me, right? Is up against your palate.
Yes.
So if this isn't against the palate, you have this open circuit for one thing. You have this narrowing of the airway for another thing. If you remember the epiglottis from 4th grade, it's not supposed to be touching the back wall here of your airway. So this is supposed to be able to flip down super easy. Oopie. It's supposed to flip down super easy so that it blocks the food from going down into your airway.
Yeah.
And now this patient had their tongue tie released. The bubble is gone. If you follow the air in through the nose, look what happened to her airway.
It's open.
It's wide open. So when you fall asleep with this first airway here on the left, you're going to go into that paralyzed sleep stage and you are going to collapse this. And because it's mucus covered, it's going to stick. And that's not comfortable.
No.
And so all night long, you have to move your jaw forward in order to open this airway. Now, this is very anxiety producing. So when you are in a chronic stage of anxiety, what happens? Everything goes bad. Right? So that's why it's so critical to have an open patent airway that is not impacted negatively by your tongue. The tongue is it's the rudder of your whole body. It's amazing how everything starts right here, right in your mouth. From birth, from before birth, on.
Well, yeah, because it's grown, in the womb.
Exactly. So those kids that are sucking their thumb, they're closing that circuit because they can't get their tongue up. Every now and then we'll have like a 30-year-old who's still thumb sucking, yeah. So they're closing that circuit. So now we're starting to wonder. So a lot of what we're doing is like pre-science because nobody's asked these questions before.
Right.
So no answers. So it's not like there's a lack of science. There is.
Nobody's asking the question.
Nobody's asking the question to find the scientific answer.
Exactly.
So right now we are starting to wonder if maybe that thumb sucking that we see in the sonograms is already an indication of a tethered tongue or a tongue that can't reach the palate, so that the baby then is sucking its thumb.
Fascinating.
To close that circuit. Yeah, it's really wacky how that all starts. So I did write a book about it. It's on its way to being printed. Everything takes way longer, but it's for new parents or soon to be parents.
Okay.
Because when you have the baby, things are so chaotic and everybody has their own flippant opinions and you don't know who to hear, or what to hear.
Yeah.
So what has been going on is that breastfeeding is so important to the growth and development of the face that there's a push towards it, but there's also a push towards just the milk. And so that we have formula, and now we have a bottle, and now we have a deformed face because of the nipple of the bottle. And the mothers are getting tortured, speaking of chronic illness, and just how new mothers are treated with respect to breastfeeding. Old nipples, too big, too small, boobs are too big, boobs are too small. They're it's just so crazy, all of these excuses, because we have a solution, which is the milk replacement, and that's okay, but then we're missing the whole mechanics of breastfeeding. That's only almost barely discussed.
So the shape of the nipple on the breast is different than the shape of the nipple on a bottle. And that affects this.
Yes.
What the hell?
I know. That's what I mean. It all starts so far back, right? And the goal of bottle feeding is to gain weight. The goal of breastfeeding is to gain weight and form this whole part of the self.
That's crazy.
So by ignoring
now
the
we
mechanics,
need to remake bottles.
they've been trying for a long time, and you can do things to a bottle nipple that you can't do to a breast. Like my mother used a big darning needle. Does anybody even remember darning?
I remember hearing the word.
Yeah. So if you have a hole in your sock, you put a wooden egg into the sock to hold it nice and tight. And then you use a big giant needle. It's about that big. It's really fat. And then you just sew that hole closed. It's called a darning needle. And if you put it in the flame of your stove and put it through the tip of the nipple of the bottle, your baby doesn't have to work so hard to get the milk out. So now it's just kind of rushing in. So,
and we don't want that.
We don't want that, because then they just never develop the snoring muscles, right?
I see.
Because the milk is just flying through there. So, it's just really interesting how that's the nidus of all of these problems. Yeah. And then you compensate for not having good tongue function. And then later and later, and now you have not food sensitivities, but food fussiness, where the textures don't resonate, and you just don't like these foods or those foods. You don't like to chew because it takes you really long to chew, or you just don't chew and you just chomp, chomp, swallow, and you're just swallowing whole parts of food. Well, that turns into chronic stomach problems. Hello.
Because your body can't digest a big piece of food. Like, it needs to be broken down. So I can kind of relate to some of this too, because I saw you and then you referred me to Dr. Shetty, who did my tongue tie release. After I got that done, I noticed I could better easily swallow a pill. Like, before I got it done, I would have to like literally tilt my head back to get it all the way past my tongue to make it go down. And my husband would laugh at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm swallowing my pill." He's like, "Just swallow it." I'm like, "I can't." My tongue's in the way.
Yeah.
But now I can swallow a bunch of them all at once.
Because your tongue couldn't undulate, right? Yeah. You couldn't undulate to move the food from the front to the back.
Yeah.
So that was, who would think that was a benefit? You have other benefits, not just pill swallowing from that tongue tie release.
Right.
It's hard to quantify, because I don't know. I have like zero connection to what my body's doing. It's really rare that I'm like, what's that? You breathe the way you breathe, and you don't know that you're doing it incorrectly. You chew the way you chew because that's how you've been chewing your whole life.
Compensate, yeah.
Yeah. You're compensating. And then all of a sudden your muscles are like, this is baloney. I am out of here. I am not going to be taxed like this anymore. I'm not going to be exercising this way anymore. I'm not gonna, she can just sit in a chair and she's just gonna have to be happy with no breathing
Yeah.
or no energy or whatever,
Yeah.
So these are things that then pile up into these chronic conditions,
Right.
right? And you just don't even know that this is your tongue problem. Jaw joints. Holy crap. Sorry, am I allowed to say crap on your new
Say
show?
whatever the hell you want.
So now if you're mouth breathing, because you
Yeah.
have sinus problems, let's say, because your tongue is tied, your tongue never lifted into your palate, never grew
Yeah.
the floor of the sinuses, right? So you have all of this stuff is happening. Now your mouth is open since you're a tiny baby, because you have to breathe through your emergency hatch. What
Yeah.
does that do to the formation of the bone in your jaw joint?
Oh, it moves it.
Screws it up. So
Yeah.
now you have chronic ear pain, you have tinnitus, you have just jaw pain, you have popping and clicking of your jaw.
TMJ.
Exactly. So that's how all of this stuff keeps on going and going and going. And myofunctional therapy may not cure all of it, but it is a part of everything that you're going to do.
Totally.
And it's going to help solve or get you closer to your solution than ignoring or continuing to ignore it.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
yeah, that's where I'm at with that. And that's how I approach everything. I named my business Primal Air because I wanted to just elicit this idea that we're going to be looking really far back to figure out how things were supposed to be, how you are, how close are you to that primal face, and then try to get you back over there as close as we can.
Oh, tell me about the primal face. That sounds interesting.
Primal face is not flat. It's forward.
Mm-hmm.
The primal face had room for 32 teeth, so they never extracted wisdom teeth.
Mm.
Not only that, but they have what's called a retromolar pad. So that is behind the final tooth. So behind the wisdom tooth, there's room for another tooth. That's how much room we had that we've lost going backwards.
Cow.
Yeah.
Why did that happen?
There are a number of reasons that coalesced. So we see the biggest change in the shape of the face in the last 150 years.
Okay.
So if this was an evolutionary change, it would have taken 10,000 years to make that change.
So what the hell did we do as humans?
So what
to
did
make
we
it
do
not an
right.
evolutionary change? What did we do?
Our brains grew massively after we discovered fire and we started to cook our own foods.
Right.
And then right around the time that in the late 1800s, we started to do a lot of weird things like cook it until it was not natural. We were able to travel like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when you travel, and you and I are Northerners, right? I mean, our ancestors are from the Arctic almost, right? Yeah. It was cold up there all the time. So 150 years ago, it was possible to get on a boat and suddenly live in the south of France or in Greece or, pick a country near the equator. So you could live there, and then suddenly now you're eating food that is not evolutionarily appropriate for you.
Oh.
Right? So our ancestors, yours and mine, potentially, right?
Yeah.
How often would they stumble across a pineapple, for instance?
Never.
Never. Or even an avocado, which is a superfood, right?
Yeah.
Or pick any other superfood, a coconut fat, that's the best thing ever.
My people ate potatoes.
Yes, that's their vegetable.
We ate potatoes.
We ate potatoes, right? It was easy to find and all this other stuff. We might have come across some berries, you know.
Probably any root vegetable, I would say.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Yeah. That gets real mushy.
That's how we have to be eating. And I think this is also one of those forward ideas that I keep having. And that is everybody's not supposed to eat the same diet. And it's not the
Yeah.
difference between, an anti-inflammatory diet or this diet or a Mediterranean diet. If you are from the North and you have multiple generations from the North that go beyond what they can get out of ancestry, whatever, where you send in your samples and stuff, you have to go
Yeah.
backwards. And then you have to really think, what diet was appropriate then?
Yep.
Not only did we eat potatoes and root vegetables, we ate animals.
Yep.
We ate all of the animal. We didn't just eat, the steak part. So that's the kind of meal we should eat. And when I'm looking at foods that are in season,
Yeah.
I am looking for foods that are in season where I came from.
Yeah.
Not, well, cherries are in season, or peaches or whatever, southern kind of fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good for 2.5 weeks. Then they all fall off the tree and turn to mush.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pick them green and put them into somewhere else, to stall the ripening process,
Mm-hmm.
so, they may look like they're in season. The apples around here, don't you wonder sometimes why there's apples still?
Yes, I was grocery shopping recently. I'm like,
Yeah.
where does all this produce come from?
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, how is it that my apple that I would have bought in October, let's say, and maybe
Yeah.
even put in the refrigerator looks terrible and I wouldn't eat it. And
Yeah.
I can go to the grocery store and get a brand new one that did not just hatch. It did not just get pulled off a tree. It was manufactured somewhere. And we northern people are not to be eating apples in the spring.
Yeah, because I'm walking around outside,
Yeah.
walking my dogs, and
Yeah.
there's a house that has a couple apple trees, and like right now, then like naturally what's happening,
They're
it's
flowering.
it's spring, yeah, right now. So I see like white flowers on the apple trees. And now the wind has blown them away, but they're on the ground.
Yes.
But yeah,
With the
like
wind.
apple trees right now have flowers.
Exactly. They don't have fruit. So this is not the appropriate time to be eating apples, even though they're handy. My mother is always like, oh, these blueberries, they came from Chile and all this stuff. And I'm like, so they've been on a boat for 2 months as the boat was chugging its way up to Florida.
Yeah.
It's just not appropriate. And I think that's probably what happened. So the primal face
Yeah.
has to do with how our food changed, just generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And now, in the last generation and a half, so since the 80s or so, what they've been doing to the food. They've been taking things out and putting things back in.
Yeah.
So take white bread, for instance. They take all of the husks and make it nice and fluffy white, and then they put more vitamins in because they took them all out. And now they've added more of the husks and stuff back into it, making it a whole grain. But all of that accumulates into food that doesn't require chewing.
Yeah.
Think
Well,
of
and
all
also
of your
is
restaurant food doesn't require chewing. You can just mush it around and just chunk it back.
yeah. And, especially with wheat, like it's all, at least here in the US, genetically modified, and
Right.
our body doesn't know what the fuck to do with that.
Yes. Yeah,
So then it just stores it as fat.
it
So that's
does.
part of the reason why Americans, at least, are fat.
Yeah, it is part of the reason. And it also changes all of the cell walls
Yeah.
of all of our cells. We are animals and we need to replace our animal fat. And what we've done is we've changed all of our fat to seed fat. So corn oil, canola oil, grapeseed oil,
Yeah.
whatever, all this stuff. Now, a closer match would be fruit oil, which we never call fruit oil. So olives are fruits, avocados are fruits, coconuts are fruits. So you and I should probably not be eating any of those fruit oils, but they're closer to animal fats than the others.
Yeah.
And if you can't bring yourself to eat the whole bacon strip instead of just the meat part, and you're trimming your steak to within an inch of its life, then you need to replace those fats. Otherwise, those cells incorporate the seed fat and the cell is damaged.
Okay. I've not heard this before. So it's better to eat the animal fat
Yes,
than cut it off.
correct.
Fascinating.
Yep.
Okay, I'm
My
gonna eat
son
all the
was,
bacon I can then.
yes, eat all the bacon you
Thanks for
can
permission.
and prioritize your ruminant animals, your four-stomached animals.
What's
So that
that?
would be beef,
Uh-huh.
goat, sheep, lamb, all of these cud chewing animals. Those would be the priority foods.
Okay.
So those are the ones with the best fats.
Okay.
The doctors who are working with these kinds of foods and manipulating diets of their chronically ill patients
Mhm.
are finding that it doesn't even matter if it's grass fed or not.
Okay.
So they're getting really good benefits from people who are even eating, McDonald's hamburger patties. So they get rid of the
Okay.
bun.
Yeah.
They get rid of the bun, and
We're
they
not
get rid
saying
of
go eat McDonald's.
no, we're not, but they just eat the what you call it. So
Yeah.
there's that. Hold on.
Sure. Are you finding another screen share?
No, my phone is ringing off the hook here. It's the same person over and over.
Oh
I'm like,
no.
good. I'm on. But that's what happens when you work for yourself, when
Right.
you're the only person. So I
Life
do
of a
have an
business owner.
office person. Yeah, I do have an office lady, but she's running her rummage sale today and tomorrow
Oh, gotcha.
during for the Sun Prairie rummage sale.
Gotcha.
So that's why the phone is ringing and ringing.
No worries. No worries.
So yeah, so to get back to the primal face,
Yeah.
Dr. Price, Dr. Weston A. Price. So you may be familiar with the Weston A. Price Foundation,
Okay.
which is a pretty active group, was a dentist, and he was noticing that all of his patients that were direct immigrants from wherever had wide arches, no decay, no periodontal disease. They had no problems with their mouth or their face, and they were easy peasy people. And their children had all kinds of problems already. So once they lived here, and now they have kids here, and those kids are eating the American diet or the Western diet or the sad diet, or he called it the diet of commerce, the foods of commerce.
Okay.
Found that those kids had crumpled up faces, so their teeth were jumbled up, they had decay, they had periodontal disease, and then those kids were even worse. So he sold everything in his practice once he was starting to really wonder.
Yeah.
Sold everything, went around the world and studied these communities that were sequestered, that didn't have access to these foods of commerce. And he found that this was the same exact thing. When they had never been polluted with westernized foods, they had wide arches, nobody was sick, nobody had dental problems, everybody had great looking teeth, great smiles, yada yada.
Yeah.
And then once the first generation that was exposed to our American diet, everything went downhill. So now we can go. Then he met Dr. Pottinger.
Okay.
Dr. Pottinger happened upon a large number of cats because he was studying cats for something else, and people started bringing him cats, and he decided to start his own study, and he fed these cats in groups the same diet across 4 generations. So he had cats that were on a species specific diet, and that's the phrase that we want to be using right now, right? Pop-Tarts are not species specific, they are anti-food. They are anti-food, right?
Yeah.
So these cats, raw milk, raw meat, bones, cooked meat, raw milk, cooked meat, cooked milk, cooked meat, and sweetened condensed milk. Within one generation in these alternative diets,
Yeah.
not only, it was only 2/3 of their diet was that, because they did get some of the benefits of the raw foods during that time.
Yeah.
The first generation on these altered diets were already sick.
Oh my God.
They had asthma, they had problems with their teeth, they had this, they had that. Then the next generation was even worse off. And when they, they dissected these cats to find out what was wrong, their face, which started out with one big skeletal face, and then the zygomatic arch, which is right here, this little bone right here in your cheeks. Yeah. So they had this bone and they had these these bones, and then they had two mandible pieces.
Uh-huh.
And then by the third generation, they had like 70 pieces of bone. It just never, ever really fused or became whole.
What?
And this is the part that really turned my stomach. So none of these cats could conceive. None of these cats could give live birth if they were lucky enough to conceive. And they had fewer and fewer cats in those groups, because they were on the same food then across those generations. So then he was like, so a cat generation is like 9 or 10 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Human generation is what, 25 now years?
Mhm.
So it takes a long time for us to see a lot of these changes.
Yeah.
But we could see them in these cats. And then I was like, this is exactly what's happening to children. They have asthma, they have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, which was reserved for old fat people.
Right.
We have all of these chronic health problems in the children.
Right.
And I'm like, this is BS.
Well,
we need to be able to do something more. Yes, of course it does.
It makes sense why it's happening to kids younger, well, just with the diabetes, because the child, the embryo, exists inside of the grandmother.
Perfect.
So if whatever was going on with the grandmother, so this, I'm in my 40s, I'm officially in my 40s. Just the last century.
Yep.
Like we can just look back there.
Yep.
To see what was going on with our grandparents. That's affecting us right now, because grandma had it, which means it was passed down to mom because mom was inside of the womb, but we were also inside of mom, inside grandma.
Right.
Because we have the most eggs when we're an embryo, which is
all the eggs we ever have. Yeah, we're born with all the eggs we're ever going to have.
Yeah, it's insane. So, yeah.
So, yeah. So not only that, there was food differences. There were environmental differences. No woman in the 1950s would get hammered. It just wasn't done. By the 70s, it was real common. Believe me, it was common.
Yeah.
And then it never went away. And then we had the pill. So guess what? Everybody's up for a good time. And so it's all of those things that have changed. And if you put it on a timeline, it's eyebrow raising for sure.
It sounds pretty scary.
It is scary. And we have to, according to the cat study, we're kind of in that 4th generation. And what he found is that he did 4 more generations on an appropriate diet, and it took 4 generations to recover.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm really high on getting these 12-year-old girls to be not afraid of fat. That's really critical right there, to not be afraid of fat.
Our body needs it.
It does need it.
We need a balanced diet of protein, fat, and believe it or not, we need carbohydrates, because that's where we get our energy from. But a carbohydrate of vegetables, not of bread.
Right.
Or pasta.
We have to eat whole food. We have to eat FOOD.
Real food.
Not something to eat. So, the common thing now is just to go across the outside of your grocery store and spend like 0 time in the interiors in all of those aisles.
Totally.
That's where you get your steps in. And that's where your head gets turned. It's like, wow, what's that? That looks delicious. Wow, what's that? Oh, people eat that? But it's not food. It's something to eat. And it will fill your stomach, but it won't fill your cells. Right. And then your cells and the microbiome in your gut is asking for actual food, and we keep giving it potato chips or,
Yeah.
you know, or some other thing. What's really sickening is at Woodman's now, the junk food aisle in the health food section is almost as long as the regular junk food aisle.
It is.
It's unbelievable. These are fried in this oil and these are fried in those oils. And this is, you know, these are carrot chips. And, you know, it's in a bag.
Yeah.
There that should tell you, or these fake meats. Those are those lab meats. It's incredibly damaging to the environment, more so than any other actual food. So, you know, we need to like think back. Did we really, how many trucks were involved in this food? I mean, even just that simple. How many trucks did it take to put the seeds in and get the dirt ready and all this other kind of stuff? You know, like the Beyond Meat, for instance, it has, I don't know, like 20 different vegetables in there. So how many trucks? That's 20 trucks just to get it to the factory.
Yeah.
So, you know,
just eat the vegetable.
Just eat the vegetable and eat the freaking hamburger.
Yeah.
It's not bad for you. And you need to be chewing. It's like weightlifting, right? We know that weightlifting builds muscle and bone, and chewing does the same. You get muscle and bone when you're using your teeth.
Yeah.
So that's the primal aspect of what I do.
Now your title makes sense. Primal Air.
Yes. Yes.
Fix your face and breathe.
Yes, exactly. And you know, I can't believe how many people call here thinking we're HVAC, but we're not.
That's
I never
awesome.
dreamed that would be a misreading of our business, but there you go.
Clearly they didn't even go to the website. They're
no.
Like, Air. All right, that sounds cool.
We want to market your business, your HVAC business. I'm like, you failed on job one.
Investigation.
Yeah, know your business.
Yeah, that's funny. So yeah, so when it comes back to like chronic illness, making sure that we're breathing properly so we don't stay stuck in that fight or flight response, which if we're in that for a significant amount of time, that's what causes these chronic illnesses, right? The nervous system being activated for too long. And that's what I'm finding too, just as a mental health therapist, is like everything my clients present with, it's like, we need to get your nervous system in check, right?
Yeah.
So you are a good referral for even therapists too, making sure that their clients are breathing properly, and explaining like why diet is important.
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm telling you, if you are ignoring the fats, which many vegans are, then, or they're eating inappropriate fats, and we can just tell the chronic pain for sure is involved there.
Yeah, and when you were talking about like seasonal vegetables and like eating where your people came from, I've had that thought too, and this is going to make me want to investigate it a little bit more of if we ate that way and behaved that way according to the seasons, could that potentially, I'm going to quote, eliminate seasonal depression? Right?
I think so.
I think so too. Like, we're not appreciating what is available.
Right.
And I've talked to some people that have lived in like the southern states where it's warm all of the time, so there is no break.
Yeah.
They say like they feel more calm and
plenty
relaxed.
of sun.
Yeah, they get plenty of sun, but they feel more calm and relaxed having seasons if they've moved up. I think one of them was Anka from Polka Dots.
Oh, really?
She had mentioned that, like, she felt more relaxed and calm here in Wisconsin than when she lived in Florida. Because that's
why I dislike Florida so much.
because
my mother loves it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's horrible. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. You're just on all of the time, which that
Yeah.
could be great because you can always go do stuff, versus when it's winter, you have to stay inside.
Recover. You have to recover
What's wrong with
from
recovering?
nothing. You need to have recovery time.
Yeah.
And some people can just muscle their way through and have, potentially no problems.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just not everybody's built that way. My son is in California. They live in Northern California,
Hmm.
and he's like a muscle man, and he works out and he goes. I was there this past weekend. 2 days he was up snowmobiling in the mountains, and I'm
Yeah.
like, the pictures of the snow in those mountains, it was pristine.
Yeah.
Like whatever snow is left here at the end is black and gross. It's just so pretty there. And,
Yeah.
and he takes advantage of, it's so hilarious when you hear these California people talk about winter. I'm like, just shut up. But they do scale down in the
Yeah.
winter
Yeah.
anyway.
Yes.
So they just aren't working as hard. They plan more sedate kind of activities or homebound activities. So I think you're right. And the thing that really tipped me off about
Uh,
this is, I don't know how I stumbled across this, but
mhm.
you can map blood types
Okay.
across the globe.
Really?
Yep. From ancestral blood sampling, right?
Okay.
So this part of the globe has type whatever, and this part over here has type whatever else. And I was like, well, that fits with that blood type diet, which has no proven benefits. And and it goes, it just goes to this idea of eat from your ancestors. So
Yeah.
that may be a shortcut way to figure out where you're supposed to be. So the map was from some university, so it wasn't just some guy in his basement, it was a university
An
study.
actual study.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was really helpful. And I think you're right about the sun, and I think you're right about eating appropriately. And I'm really more and more convinced that any neurological problem is a fat insufficiency from animal fat.
Huh.
I had one vegan patient that wasn't able to get over her pain, and whatever exercises we were doing were triggering a lot of pain.
Sure.
And I was like, can you eat some butter? Because you need some building blocks. No, I absolutely won't. She would not touch any animal food.
Okay.
And I did convince her to at least use saturated fats from plants, like
Okay.
coconut oil and olive oil and the fruit oils that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And she was 80% better by
Fantastic.
having a couple of tablespoons a day of
Yeah.
just fat. And so I was like,
Well, and when you talk about food too and cooking, you have to cook with a fat. Those oils, the avocado and coconut oil, I cook with those, and those are best for high heat, which is what you're cooking meat and sauteing in. So
yeah,
if you're using the other ones like the seed oils, you're just nullifying whatever benefits they're having.
exactly.
It's
There aren't
making
any
them,
benefits.
yeah,
They are toxins for real. I
yeah,
mean, that's just the short answer for those seed oils.
yeah,
And then we also can buy jars now of duck fat and tallow from cattle and lard from pigs.
yeah.
So you can cook with those fats too,
Hmm.
and you can just save all those fats.
Hmm.
You're doing the cooking and then reuse them over, a few times. So there's a push in that direction.
I'm gonna cook
So I think
butter.
that's really, really awesome.
Okay. So I guess we've talked a lot about lots of things, but what brought you to doing this kind of work? How did you get here? Because it's not something that you would dream up as a kid.
No, because
I
nobody's ever
want to
heard of
work
it.
with air.
So the shortest version of the long story is
Yeah.
that after I had my kids, I wanted to be an orthodontist. I
Okay.
am just a complete opposite kind of person. Everything I do is upside down and backwards. So I had all my kids and I was like, I'm going to college.
Okay.
So so 4 little kids under, 2 years old, and then I'm going to college. And
Yeah.
then I had another kid while I was in college, and I was like, yeah,
Because why not?
Then I switched from becoming an orthodontist because I wanted to work with jaw pain.
Okay.
And so I then was like, it's going to take me too long, and it's just too long. And so I went to dental hygiene school instead. Well, I transferred into the dental hygiene program. So in 1986, I graduated from that program, and I was already kind of holistic-y
Okay.
because, we had, well, for whatever reason. So we'd had all of that. And then I get into the dental field and I'm like, well, I have zero autonomy. Dentists are in the business of fixing teeth, and dental hygienists are in the mode of
Cleaning.
preventing teeth from needing fixing. So when I figured that out, I was like, this isn't going to work. So I had zero autonomy. I couldn't start my own practice. In a dental office, I had to do whatever the doctor did. I never found a doctor who was in the same mindset that I had.
Uh-huh.
And I couldn't fit into their mindset. It was really, really excruciating.
Sure.
So that was 1986. And then by 2003, I was like, I'm going to write and I'm going to speak. So that's what I did. I sold articles and I was speaking across the country. And then I started to do some speaking across the globe.
Yeah.
And so I did all of that and I paid all my bills. And I was talking about a lot of the things that I wanted to do as a hygienist and was not allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I found other people in that tribe. So that was cool. And so all of that was what I was doing. And then in 2014, I was dragged to a meeting about airway. And I was like, ugh, whatever, So
Okay,
I
fine,
went
I'll
there
go.
and I was gobsmacked for the entire weekend. I was just, first of all, I couldn't believe that no one had mentioned anything like this to me. Second of all, I was
Right.
like, the dentists are in charge of my license. How come they're not doing it?
Yep.
Thirdly, I'm like, I will have another topic now to write about and to speak about. And then I was like, yeah, I can't do that until I have some experience. So then I went and I took the courses. And then I took them again. And then I talked to my son, Philip, and I was like, we need to just start a practice because it's not working the way that we're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Which was just trying to educate, because I was subbing then in a dental office every now and then. And then I would say something to the patient and the doctor would come in again and he would say, oh, well, you can talk, you can eat. So I guess it's fine. I was like,
what? You just missed the whole thing.
The whole point was gone. He didn't know. He didn't want to know. He was making his mortgage and his car payment. So what the hell? And of course, I'm opposite, and I'm so.
Me too. That's why we get along.
I know. So that's when I started Primal Air, and it's been a very long, empty road, but we are starting to be a lot busier. Little interviews like this have been extremely helpful because people don't know what it is and they don't know how to even ask questions about it.
No, and you don't know that it's a question to ask. I think it's a problem in the first place.
Yes.
And I think that too, because this is in the more holistic, like integrative, functional type of medicine, whereas at least in America, we're still stuck in Western medicine, which is great and we need it, right? For emergency purposes. But there's other things that need to be looked at and assessed, right? And
exactly.
Our medical doctors don't know what they don't know yet. So
they have zero professional curiosity. And I think that's what happens as they coalesce, right? So around here, we have 3 or 4 main HMOs.
Yeah.
And all the doctors work in these HMOs and
Yep.
they cannot make a decision on their own. They have to wait for the upstairs to make those changes come down.
Yeah.
And you can't get to the upstairs people. I can't talk to them. I can talk to my doctor, but my doctor then has to go and push that up the chain. And they have other problems that they have to worry about. So this problem, which is the nidus of 90%, wink, wink, of all of the problems they're dealing with, is ignored because one, they can't make money doing it. Two, they have to refer out to somebody else. And three, it takes a long time. So there you go. That's how I got here.
Well, thank
I
you for
prefer
getting
to be frustrated, apparently.
That's all right. You're making changes that we need to know about, and hopefully by you doing these interviews and us, that are providing them are sharing them with the right people. So yeah. So how can people work with you if they're interested in getting some type of assessment on their mouth or their
Yeah.
air?
So we can do everything virtually, so they don't have to be local.
Okay.
So if you're not in the Madison, Wisconsin area, it's not a problem at all. So start by calling the office. And I think, well, the number is 608-318-2800. And then we'll get you scheduled in for an appointment, an online appointment. We will send you a photo array to copy because we can learn a lot from that, especially with an online appointment. Like you're 2 feet back from your camera and I'm 2 feet back from my camera. You're effectively 4 feet away from me. It's hard for me to see your teeth.
Right.
And what's going on in your mouth. So having those photos really ramps up our treatment, our assessment.
Yeah.
And so that's how we do it. And then we'll set up a treatment plan. A lot of our treatment plans, it takes a year to get everything organized. So it's not just about strengthening the muscle. It's not like lifting weights. It's building that neurological circuitry that goes up into your brain.
Right.
So that's how we do it.
Right. And when it comes to building that muscle, you have to work against the muscle memory that already exists. Right.
Exactly.
So even so it's the opposite of when you stop working out and go back to the gym and your muscles remember how to do it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But it's the same thing, but backwards here. You have to break that neural circuit to create.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And train the body to recognize it.
Exactly.
As an appropriate way to be.
Exactly. Yeah. And that takes some time.
Yeah.
Especially if you've been doing it for, 20, 30, 50, 60 years, who knows?
And we do have patients in their 60s and 70s.
I bet.
Yeah.
But, okay. So I guess last question, what's one thing or a couple things that people listening can do right now, besides giving you a call to help change their breathing or change what they're eating to kind of work on some of this?
Well, I think I made my fat case pretty good.
Yeah. Eat
Get
bacon fat.
Get yourself on some actual fat, not
Yeah.
plant fat. And then also just make sure as much of your tongue is against the roof of your mouth as possible.
Mhm.
And if not enough of it is possible, then, get somebody to take a look at it and see what's wrong.
Mhm.
And and then slow, low breathing.
Slow breathing.
So we do Buteyko here, and one of the first things you're going to learn is how to use a finger feather. So in order to I can demonstrate really fast. So you put your finger under here
Mhm.
and pretend it's a feather,
Mhm.
and breathe so that you can't move the feather.
Wow. That would take me a long time.
Yeah. So you do that in 4-minute segments with about a minute and a half in
Oh.
between.
Yeah. So you have to slow the inhale and the exhale.
Exactly. So that you almost can't feel it on your finger.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's one of the techniques that resets the breathing center in your brain.
Mm-hmm. And that effectively will help that nervous system calm the F down.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, do you have any questions for me today, Shirley? I know we talked all about what you're doing, but just like to ask.
Well, what are you doing these days? I know you put on Facebook, you have a new location.
Yeah. So yeah, I
Looks
have
pretty. I love your background stuff.
oh, thank you. Yeah, so I'm still working as a mental health therapist, focusing on women with chronic illness and looking for ways to step outside of just like the one-on-one therapy. So this is kind of my way to step outside, work with other practitioners to do the things that I can't do, right? But I know are helpful. So having these connections and collaborations, sharing the information, putting it out there, yeah, and then I also too want to do some videos with other women that have chronic illness to share their stories and provide some hope. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I'm at and what I'm doing right now.
Well, that's cool. So how do people get in touch with you usually? How do they find you? Are
People,
you
yeah,
findable on Facebook or something, or
I
is it
am
all
on
referrals?
I'm on several different like listing sites
Okay.
for therapists. So people find me that way. I have a website, Google, Facebook, yeah. So I'm findable. But yeah, I do get a lot of referrals now. I've been in business since I started my business in COVID.
Oh,
Uh,
you did?
Yeah, so I like set up my LLC January of 2020 and then yeah.
Nice.
But I grew,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah,
it
sure.
didn't it didn't affect me at all, which is great.
Well, because you and I both are using video appointments, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be here.
Nope.
So,
Well,
yep, that
and
helps a lot.
the pandemic did actually help mental health going into virtual. Like it wasn't an option before. So
Exactly. Yeah.
so now it's
People were too nervous.
because it's been demonstrated to help people, especially like in rural area. That's a mouthful. Rural areas. I bet that has something to do with my tongue.
Yeah.
Um, where there's
Just a
not a
little.
lot of therapists, now
Right.
people can hop online and see someone. And they're not
Exactly.
just limited to who, the one therapist in town, which could not be
Exactly.
beneficial either because you
And
probably know each other.
it's so unbelievable, that it really matters. It's not even unbelievable. It's very believable that you're not going to get along with every single therapist,
No.
you know,
A lot
maybe.
of the clients I have are like,
Yeah.
my last therapist sucked. I'm like, I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah,
But that's the thing. Like, your personalities aren't always going to click.
that's right. So
So
it's nice to have options, especially online options.
totally, totally.
Super. Oh,
Right.
thank you so much for letting me have an opportunity to just
Yeah,
spill it out.
totally. And we'll probably do it again sometime. We'll pick out different things to talk about. So
Yeah,
thank you so
works
much
for
for your
me.
time. I'm gonna make sure that I add your email, your website, your phone number, all your contact info underneath it, and then I will send you the link so you can share it with your people as well.
Sounds good.
All
Thanks,
right.
Mish.
Thanks,
Have a good
Shirley.
week.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.